17 woke movements boomers find hard to support. It's no surprise that the younger generation loves many woke trends, yet boomers just can't get behind. Whether it's being extra careful about pronouns or canceling anyone who makes a mistake, these topics are certain to make any dinner conversation controversial. Let's look at 18 woke trends and why many boomers will never support them. All right, let's see what they got. Push for pronouns. I don't think this is just boomers. I think this goes across all generations. These days, many people introduce themselves with pronouns to make other people feel seen and respected, while younger people are all for this. I wouldn't say all. Not all of them are. Or all aspects of it. Many boomers find it a bit confusing. They don't understand why we need to state something that seems obvious. They find it hard to follow this trend because they weren't born. I mean, oh, come on now. You can't, human beings understand patterns, physiques, why, it's easy to call someone a he or her. You look at someone who is a man, you go, oh, that's a he. You look at someone who's a female and you go, oh, that's a her. But of course, we're getting to this trend where everyone needs to feel special. And I know that there's plenty of millennials and Gen Z who are not pushing for pronouns. Yes, I'm sure it's most prevalent with their generation. I get that. But I don't think it's exclusive to just boomers. Nothing to add. Cancel culture. Cancel culture is when someone's famous says or does something offensive and suddenly they're cut off from their careers and fans. Even if it's something they did many years ago, young people believe we should hold them accountable. I don't think this is just boomers. I think we in our society, we're just very unforgiving. We just want to see people go down and stay down. There's no redemption. Do not pass go, nothing. You stay down. We just live in this, crabs and boiling water effect where we just want to pull people down and we get some weird joy when people are down. Again, it's a very unforgiving society. I believe there's a lot of power in forgiveness. People make mistakes. We're all human. It happens. I mean, it just depends on the severity of the mistake, right? If someone accidentally kills someone, that's, you send them to jail, may God forgive them. But the cancel culture, it's just so easy to get canceled. And it comes from a lot of it is comedy too. People try to make a joke and then boom, the level of offensiveness of how far things go. It's just, there's so many things that can be identified as this is too offensive. This person should be canceled for it. Especially for something they said back years ago. That's even worse. Dude, it was funny then. Okay, may not. We all learned, we all grew, but come on now. Don't need to be canceled for that. Safe spaces on college campuses. College students are creating safe spaces where students can relax without facing any ideas or words that upset them. While it's meant to be good, many boomers think it's ridiculous. They argue that college should toughen you up with different views, not shield you from them, so making safe spaces defeats the whole purpose of college. Again, this isn't a boomer thing, but yes, I get it's most prevalent for younger generations. It's so easy to be offended now. I don't think college is a place necessarily to toughen up, but challenge viewpoints and have your own viewpoints challenged. Ideas should be challenged. This is the place of open thought in college. And say, hey, I believe this. Another person says, I believe this. Have open discussions. Have debates. Have healthy debates. It's okay. Ideas are meant to be beat up and challenged. The best ones make it through. Corporate diversity training. Diversity training at work is becoming the norm, and it's supposed to help everyone get along and understand each other. Some boomers feel it's a bit forced, and they may miss the times when work was just about work. Many question whether these sessions change anything or if they are just box ticking exercises designed to make younger people happy. Notice how they say some boomers feel it's a bit forced, so it means not all of them. I believe some diversity training is needed. Hey, you as men understand that there's women here who work too. They're not here to be hit on, to be flirted with. They're here to do a job just like you. Please understand that. Some there's still a lot of communities that are like so white that they get shocked when they see their very first black person, right? I remember when I was in boot camp, like this was like more than 10 years ago, that there were still white people from the smallest towns you could think of in America who have never met a black person until basic training. And it shocked them, right? So that kind of diversity training is kind of needed. Like, hey, these are just your fellow Americans. Yes, they have different skin color. They might have a different cultural background, but they're your fellow Americans. These are your new brother at arms. So treat them just like you would with anyone else you did back in your little town, with dignity and respect. Environmental extremism. While everyone agrees that saving the planet is important and nobody against cleaner air and water, younger people seem to take it to the extreme. They want drastic changes like zero waste lifestyles, which many boomers find unrealistic. They'd rather encourage people to take mediocre, doable steps than big leaps. Like, what were we talking about extreme? Is it like the people who intentionally block traffic? Yeah, those are extreme environmentalists. Remember the days when people were putting H2s on fire? Remember those Hummers were catching fire? People would intentionally blow them up? Yeah, that's extreme. Now, we're a smart society. It's just a matter of like, okay, if you want cleaner water, cleaner everything, how can you do it at a profitable way? Think like a capitalist. Because you know people are greedy and they'll only respond when money's involved. So if you could just think of a way like I can make jobs, I could, sell it to the government. Hey, I can make things cleaner. You win a contract. Yeah. I guess the big thing is like the approach to getting your environmental needs met, such as cleaner air, zero emissions, and all of that. Because it would be nice to have no pollution. Don't get me wrong. It's just the approach to it. The rise of social media activism. Activism is huge on social media too, and many younger people use these platforms to spread the word quickly. But boomers think that this type of activism is less genuine or effective than the old school get your hands dirty kind. I don't think activism on social media, we all know it's BS. It's straight BS. All it is, you just leave a comment. You make a post, but that's as far as you go. Nothing really changes. And I don't think it's just younger generations doing this. I've seen plenty of boomers do this too. Gen X, older generations, who think their comments matter. Their comment is going to change the world. No, not necessarily. We still have a lot of issues in this world, and nothing's happened. No, nothing big has happened because of social media. Enough people complained enough on social media. The best you can do is like maybe your favorite fast food place starts to respond to all these negative reviews, and then they make a change. But everything big, especially in like the political world, it's not going to change. Gender neutral bathrooms. Lots of young people support the idea of bathrooms that anyone can use, no matter their gender identity, as they argue it's a step towards inclusivity. I don't think this is, again, just boomers. I think this goes across all generations. Not everyone wants gender neutral bathrooms. Me as a man, I just don't say anything. Because the only people who are really trying to push and fight this are women. Women don't want to share bathrooms with men at all. Ask just any reasonable woman if they're okay sharing bathrooms with men. Most of them would say no. And I think that's okay. There's no problem with that. I guess the only time is if it's not like forced upon women. Because I've been at sporting events where the lines for women's restrooms have gone like out there, right? And there's like no lines for the men's. I've seen some women just walk to the men's restroom, did their business, and left. But you can't do the other effect. Like if there's a long line for the men's restroom, but no line for women's, men, they're going to get criticized if they walk into the women's restroom. And gender neutral bathrooms, I think the only people who are comfortable using them are men and men dressed up as women. I don't think most women will use them. Correct me if I'm wrong. Say it in the comments. The gig economy. In the gig economy, flexibility is the name of the game. And this means jobs aren't 9 to 5, but more as you like. While younger people love this sense of freedom it offers, boomers value the security and the perks that come with traditional jobs like pensions and steady pay. Pensions are no longer a thing. There's very, very few jobs that still offer pensions, and a lot of them are just going away and going to like retirement plans. I don't know if boomers are necessarily against gig economies. I think they just want to push like their children to just have a good paying job. Doesn't have to necessarily be a 9 to 5, but for boomers, having a 9 to 5 means stability and typically a better paying job than a lot of odd jobs out there, or jobs that are just away from the 9 to 5, whatever you think of it. But I believe times have changed. I think you can make money. However, anything that you're really, really good at, it doesn't have to be a 9 to 5. Heck, we have so many millionaires because of social media. So many influencers, right, who make a lot of money. Now, it's hard to tell who's truly rich from social media and who's just pretending, but yeah, they do exist. Remote work. Similarly, younger people praise the shift to remote work because they think it's more convenient than normal jobs. However, for boomers, this change means that work is less professional and they miss a regular office environment, personal interactions, and structure. They're not sure if home productivity can truly match that of in-office work. I think it's great that there's a rise of remote work because there's times where you just don't need to be in the office for people who work a 9 to 5 in the office. Of course, not every job can be remote work. We still need a military that can't be done remote. We still need a police force that can't be remote. We still need firefighters that can't be remote. We still need, doctors that can't be done remote, or at least like surgeons and whatnot. There's some doctors who can work remotely, don't get me wrong. But yeah, I mean, come on, you follow me. The list can go on. But there are opportunities where if you just want an office job and you think this job can be done remotely, why am I here? It should. I don't think it adds to like the personal interactions and the structures. If anything, it's more distracting, where you have people walking up to you, asking you, not questions or anything related to work, but, just want to have a casual conversation. I've noticed that, casual conversations I drastically down. Unless a work environment wants that. However, at the same time, they'll yell at you for saying you're wasting time. In addition, I do work with a lot of boomers who work remotely. It's maybe more prevalent that boomers, maybe Gen X, they come back to the office, and younger generations more likely to say, nah, we want to stay home. I have to say, with remote work, if you're like completely by yourself, I don't think that's good. You do need to have some social interaction. For me, both my fiance and I, we both work remotely. So we're always, saying hello to each other, interacting with each other, having, doing something social so we don't feel alone. But if you're like completely alone, you can go days without leaving your house, without talking to someone. I don't think that's healthy. So I get that argument too. Reimagining history. Many young people want us to rethink how we teach history by examining perspectives that we overlooked before. Although they believe this gives everyone their due recognition, some boomers feel it's messes with the history they learned and respected. They believe we shouldn't use modern opinions to contradict the facts. Thing is, this is a little wonky because I agree to this to a certain extent. I know there's plenty of schools that are removing history books about slavery. They're removing history books about what it was like being a minority living in the 50s and how they were treated. I know there's a lot of things that's being removed out of history books. That's like, hey, the history has good and bad times. It can't just be all good. We have to know these bad times so we learn from them, not to make that same mistake. And keep in mind, history, how accurate is history anyway? We all know that, like, even today, when you read an article about something that happened, 5 days ago and you were a part of it, you can see that some of it's misled too. What makes you believe history wasn't misled? The people who write up history are the victors of war. That's who writes history. Or people who are pushing an agenda. But yeah, I mean, history is a tricky thing though. It's really tricky. Plant-based diets. Boomers are pretty wary about the vegan trend that's taking the health and environmental sectors by storm. I don't know. I don't think it's just boomers. I don't think it's relevant to put a generation behind plant-based diets. There's all kinds of generations who do plant-based diets. And it's up, let them do it. Who cares? Who really cares? As long as they're not impacting your life, who cares? Now, when they're starting to impact your life, they make you feel guilty for eating meat or whatever, then yeah, okay, it's worth getting mad at. But as far as labeling a generation that's most prevalent, I don't think it's relevant at all. Influencer culture. The idea of influencers earning by promoting products is pretty confusing for most boomers. They tend to be skeptical about how real these online personalities actually are, and they feel nostalgic for a time when advertising was more direct. To them, influencer culture represents everything that's wrong with the younger generation. Honestly, this is a mixed bag. Like, there's plenty of great influencers out there who teach people a great skill, who travel, who teach you great places to visit, that boost the economy, boost knowledge. There's people who are passionate about teaching, that makes teaching like awesome. But then you have influencers who are just bad, right? Like OnlyFans influencers. So they're like, we all know the bad influencers, right? I don't want to put a list out there. But yeah, it's a mixed bag. And it's just, I guess it's just a shift in the culture, right? Just with the times, with technology. So it's hard to say, like, if this is across the board generation. Maybe a lot of boomers just don't like it. They just don't know, like, well, I don't get it. There's plenty of influencers who are boomers too. Keep that in mind. Multicultural celebrations. Seeing so many cultural holidays in schools and workplaces is a bit too much for many boomers because they're used to just a few traditions. Of course, they understand the importance of celebrating diversity, but they're worried about their cultural heritage being ignored. What's wrong with sticking to the celebrations of your own history? I might get attacked for this. But what's really being changed? We're just learning more culture, but we're not really replacing any, are we? We still have Christmas, we still have Thanksgiving, we still have Easter, we still have Mother's Day, we still have Father's Day, we still have Veterans Day, Memorial Day, Labor Day. I mean, we haven't had anything new except for like really a Juneteenth. But other than that, I mean, I don't know. I don't think there's a replacement in cultures right now, but I know there's more cultures being embraced and we're celebrating, right? Like, for example, like Day of the Dead, it takes place right after Halloween. And it's just, it's just a added cultural experience that people are embracing more and more. But it's not like replacing Halloween or anything like that. It's just, something else to learn and have a good time with. If there's anything that's being replaced, I'd like to know. Please comment below. Minimalism. Minimalism is the hot new thing at the moment. It involves reducing life's clutters to focus on what's truly essential. Younger generations see a lot of value in decluttering because of its environmental impact, but boomers are often reluctant to support such extreme simplicity. They believe their possessions are symbols of security and comfort instead. This one's a new one to me. Man, as much of hot topics I follow with Gen Z, I don't know too many. Maybe it's being pushed on Gen Z, because I know there's a huge push to get Gen Z to live in like smaller houses, mini homes, container homes, make it sound like it's a cool new thing. It's affordable housing, this and that. But I also do believe that most materialistic things that we buy doesn't make us happy. There's very few materialistic things that people buy that keeps them happy. But for most things, it's just an impulse. It's a small joy, doesn't last long. So I'm not 100% sure of how I feel about this. So let's go with the next one. Digital payments. The move to digital payments has been pretty quick, mostly because electronic transactions are more convenient than cash. But it doesn't work out so well for boomers, who prefer how cash feels more real and gives you more direct control over your personal finances. They prefer having the choice between digital or cash. I mean, there are boomers who just, you get stuck behind a cashier because they can't figure out how to use their card or whatnot and all the buttons they need to hit. But that's very few now. And cash, I still feel like it's important. Just because, like, if you go with cash with $50 and you go to a small business and you pay $50 in cash, that's 1.5% of that money that doesn't go to the credit card companies like Visa, MasterCard, and to the banks. So that $50 continues to circulate in the local economy. But if you keep using card, eventually that $50, all of it goes to the bank and the credit card companies. So I kind of wish we use more cash than we do card. I wish more businesses would have more incentive to use cash, but I don't know, it is convenient to just use your card, right? Credit card, because sometimes it's security. You don't want to walk around with a whole bunch of cash on you in case you get robbed or something. Political correctness in media. Today's media cares a lot about not offending audiences by encouraging people to be inclusive and sensitive. You know what? That's whenever you make a joke, there's someone that's being targeted. But if you can't laugh at something, how serious can it be? You know, it's really not worth being, frustrated about. If you can't laugh at yourself, then you're like too serious and you take everything too personally. Yeah, I understand there's jokes out there that are like way wrong, right? Like way racist and whatnot, like deep, like full of hatred type of jokes, right? But if they're just fun, silly, yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with a little joking here and there. It's always fun to pick on each other's culture sometimes. I like it when people make some Mexican jokes my way, especially if it's in good spirit. If they're not trying to intentionally like piss me off, but it's like in good spirit, yeah. Education on LGBTQ plus issues. Schools are teaching more about LGBTQ plus histories and experiences because they're trying to be more inclusive, although some boomers struggle with this. They're used to more traditional educational content where teachers focus on just teaching. While they might support respect and understanding, they find the depth of new topics quite surprising. This is another controversial one. Because kids are malleable. When do you want to start teaching kids about LGBTQ plus issues? And what each of them means? What does a lesbian mean? What does a gay mean? What does bisexual mean? What does transgender mean? What does queer mean? And plus means the list keeps going on. That's a lot to process for kids. That's too much information. And plus it'll confuse them. And plus, kids grasp onto identities all the time and then they let go over time. Right? Some kids think they're going to be a baseball player and they end up being a football player because they align to that more. Or some kids love video games and then over time they lose their interest in video games. One minute they're enjoying cooking, another minute they're just not really into cooking, and then they get back into it, and then we're all kids once. So this could add to confusion. I mean awareness, but like what age do you want to bring this to them? Like high school maybe is most appropriate. I wouldn't say elementary or middle school. But at the same time, like, where does it really fit in? I mean, maybe like a day of teaching, but really just like kids focus on like their math, their grammar, their English, their writing skills, their communication skills. There's a lot of core things that need to be focused before we get to this. Mental health. Younger people are trying to push mental health into the spotlight as they see it as just as important as physical health. Schools and workplaces are improving support services to encourage open conversations about stress and depression, which is naturally a good thing. Mental health is very important to focus on. I truly believe in it. However, I also believe that we live in such a very sensitive and victim mentality that if you're a victim, you scream you're a victim. You get more support, you get more attention, and it takes away from people who are actual victims. And sometimes I feel like mental health takes away from people who actually need help, in mental health. It's so easy to say, I have mental health issues, therefore give me attention, give me special treatments. No, sometimes it's just some people just need to be tough. There's certain areas where, life is hard. You can't just be blaming everything. You have to be tough. You have to look inside yourself. Not blame everyone. The only person you can blame is yourself, because you can't overcome something, you blame it on mental health. So it is a thin line, and it's very subjective about mental health. So J. Hawk says, I'm a boomer and every generation tries different ideas and there's nothing wrong with trying. Ours was free, love, and hippies, and like everything else, we kept things that work and shelved ideas that didn't. I I think in time, as you grow, as we did, you'll keep what's good and throw away what's not. I mean, that's a good statement there. Like I was mentioning, good ideas move on, bad ideas don't. But ideas are meant to be challenged and get beat up, and the best ones make it through. EB says, focusing on mental health is a byproduct of big pharma advertising. You know what? In a way, I do see them exploiting it. A real serious problem that we definitely do have mental health issues, don't get me wrong. But it's also being exploited to people who don't have mental health issues, but they're being pushed. Like, you do have mental health issues. Have you ever felt sad in your life? You have mental health issues. Take these pills. Someone tried to define woke, subjective ideology that disregards objective truth, fact, stats, data, science, and evidence in lieu of emotional-based virtual signal. You know what? I was really happy that someone put in a definition of what woke is. Now, is that what woke means? I mean, I'm kind of leaning to that. I agree with it, but of course, that's just based reading it. I would have to look into it more to see how close this truly means, because I feel like everyone has a definition of what woke means. And sometimes I get confused of like, that's woke now? That's considered woke? I don't even know what woke means anymore. So that's nice that someone put that there. That's enough for comments. Well, that's it for this video. Please hit the like button, subscribe, and comment below. I do read them. Until next time.